Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with David Finkelstein, BDEX's founder and CEO. It's been a while, David. Good to have you back. What's new?
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah. I had to do some traveling, family emergency stuff. So good to be back. But then, the holidays are sneaking up on us. So we get, we're going to take another week off next week, I guess. But
That's right.
In the meanwhile, we have a good guest that I'm looking forward to chatting with.
Absolutely. Today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome on Steve Zisk. He's the product marketing principal at Redpoint Global Inc. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you both, Jesse and David.
Yeah, absolutely. We're glad to have you here on the show today, and would love for you to kick it off for us a little bit and give our listeners and viewers a little bit of background about you, and a little information about how you evolved to become such an integral part of the product marketing at Redpoint, and tell us a little bit about what Redpoint is doing for their clients.
Absolutely. So my background is as a developer. I spent many years writing code for companies you've probably heard of and for a bunch that you haven't heard of. And one of the things that I noticed in that context was that there's a missing link between development and the actual end business users. And that link is business users want to be able to understand everything that they're doing in their own terms. And that certainly applies to data, and it also applies to AI, one of our big topics today. So I jumped across the boundary between development and marketing in order to meet those needs. And I came to Redpoint with a recognition that Redpoint is really working to solve data quality problems, data readiness, data availability for marketers who are trying to improve customer experience. And that's been my focus since joining Redpoint. I love to get a chance to talk with our end users, with our prospects, and with anybody who cares about data and data quality, data readiness, AI, all of the things that we are going to get a chance to dive into today.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. And look, we love talking about data quality on here. So let's just jump right into the first topic, which is AI and data integrity. Kick us off with that. Tell us what your thoughts are on that. Like, what do people need to be concerned with when it comes to data integrity and AI?
So if I may, I will back us up just one step, because both AI and data integrity have a lot of different connotations, particularly when it comes to our business users in marketing. We're in the throes of an AI revolution based on LLMs, but things like ChatGPT and DALL-E did not spring fully formed from the minds of OpenAI in 2020. We've really been doing AI for many decades. Deep learning, neural networks, other machine learning have been around for a long time. And modern natural language processing, depending on who you ask, is 10 or even 25 years old. And that revolution in AI is really about the democratization of AI. And every major cloud vendor is offering those LLMs and modelings, and every major marketing technology vector is incorporating that stuff into interfaces meant for business users. But a huge stumbling block for AI usage is in the data. AI models, both those classical machine learning models and the more modern ones driven by LLM, require huge amounts of data for training, analysis, interfaces, inference, predictions, decisions. And we marketers are just beginning to realize the challenges in that kind of data flow around the accuracy, bias, privacy, ownership, security. We'll talk about some of those things a little more later. A marketer who's concerned with customer experience, or a consumer in the middle of a customer journey, wants to know, can I trust the AI? Can I trust the brand that's using it? Is my data, my identity, my family, my health, are they all being used for my benefit with my consent? and with appropriate stewardship to prevent misuse. And that's really what data integrity is about. Data integrity is the piece of understanding your data that's around making sure that all that data governance and readiness and so on are in place for your AI frameworks.
Yep, that's such a good point. We've talked about this kind of thing a lot. I love that you use the term democratization of AI because it's so true. It's like a lot of people never realized that a lot of AI and ML was going on for decades, and it really became sort of this sort of democratization of AI is the ability to put it at your fingertips so that anybody can use it, right? And so now that we're there, and anybody can use AI in different forms, whether it be ChatGPT or all of these other different tools that are being built today. A lot more people are becoming aware of it, right? But not everybody truly understands what's going on under the hood, right? And so bringing to light the importance of the integrity of the data that is being trained, that the AI is being trained with, is very, very important. That to me is sort of the big connector that says, okay, well, yes, anybody can use AI, but your limitations on how you use it and what your outcomes are going to be is limited by that data integrity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you think about it from the point of view of the consumer, they're not necessarily against that limitation. Most consumers, they want a good customer experience, but what they don't want is sort of creepy overreach, or you're sharing their data with somebody that they didn't authorize you to share it with. And that can include AI frameworks as well. There's been a lot of legislation and a lot of concerns raised over the past 6 months or a year about the use of customer data for training some of these big AI models. The cases that people remember are things like, oh, somebody stole my voice to power some particular chatbot. But even a perfectly ordinary customer doesn't want their healthcare information to be used in a way that they didn't give authorization and value for.
Sure. I mean, and we've seen instances already of authors of content that have complained about their content being used. This is their exclusive content. It's available on their website, but then the AI picks it up and now it's using it and it uses it as some form of output. And that, I think, sparked what we're seeing on a lot of these AI platforms now today, where they're citing the sources at least.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you sort of bring that back to the data quality and data integrity piece, the other side of that is not just, are you allowed to use my data, but are you getting it right? Do you have my information about me accurately or not? With a range of people being doxxed or people being misidentified, even things like a no-fly list being driven by name and address information that may not be up to date, may not be accurate. Having people understand whether the data is really representative of them, and having the marketers or the business users of the data understand whether they're using the correct set of data in the correct ways becomes super important.
So the data, obviously the quality of the data matters a lot, and the integrity. So what does that mean for the future of data quality? What do we need to do to move forward to make sure that we are collecting the clean data?
So it's a really good question, because that's going to differ from industry to industry and from place to place. Let me give you a simple example. Any bank already has information about their customers at a pretty deep and detailed level, and they're allowed to use that in particular prescribed ways. But as soon as you get into something like the retail industry, the range of customer information that they may have and the accuracy of customer information that they may have for their marketing purposes may be very different. So what a bank thinks of as data quality may be quite different from what a retailer thinks of as data quality. And it gets even more interesting if you're looking at something like a healthcare provider, where they're trying to tailor healthcare journeys and information and what they provide to you as a healthcare consumer based on their understanding of who you are and what your data looks like. So the first point that I would make about the future of data quality is that it's getting very, very fractured. There's the rules for what you can do with data, how you can bring data together, how you can retain or understand or aggregate or share or reuse data are very different. We've got 50 different states in the United States with 50 different, potentially 50 different sets of privacy laws for what you can do with your data. And all of that impacts what we can do with data quality and data readiness in the future.
Yeah, it's certainly an issue, especially with sort of these public LLMs, because I've used a few different platforms for research, and like, whatever, I'm researching companies in, certain industry or whatever it is. And, I've had it come back with lists where I'm looking at it and I'm going, I don't think that company belongs in this list. And then I go back to it and I say, I'll say something, I'm saying, I don't really think this one belongs there. And then it'll come back and say, oh, you know what? You're right. I just realized, and it'll explain a reason why it included it and why it shouldn't be included. And so there is, when you're talking about, I think, especially when you're talking about these public LLMs, there's really not a lot of data quality layers that go into it, right? It's just taking all this public data. And so your outcome is going to be limited to the quality of what it has. And I think that the challenge is, if you're going to create sort of this private AI structure, you have to have some very distinct controls on the data quality going into it. Otherwise, you end up with that same sort of garbage in, garbage out problem.
That's a really good way of identifying one aspect of data quality, which is making sure that the incoming data is accurate. The other thing that I would say about the LLM is that we're just starting to see LLMs who are providing some transparency and some, if you will, referential integrity, where if an LLM gives you an answer, it can cite where it got the information in that answer from. So data quality on the way out also becomes important. The only additional point I'd like to make about the example that you just brought up, company data where a company doesn't really belong there, is that's been potentially a problem for a long time, and I don't think it's necessarily going away. The interesting difficulty is we have so many different sources of data right now that trying to make sure that we understand who a company is or who a person is or what a family is becomes more and more problematic. I leave a footprint on social media that's probably 10 or 15 different social media brands, but my son probably has 20 or 25 different social media brands, most of which I've never even heard of. How do you manage data quality across that many different touch points, that many different points of information?
That's a good point. What would you say to that, David?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and I don't know how, I don't know what the long-term sort of way to tackle that is. I know that, like, in my instance, once I make a correction, I'm trying to think. There's some platforms that I'm using. I use multiple. I use like Perplexity. I use Claude. Those are the two that I use the most. And I know that, like, I've made corrections in Claude, and I've told it, okay, from now on, you need to understand this, you know what I mean? Like this cannot be included in this. And it will remember that for me, but it doesn't, that doesn't do anything for everybody else. So somebody else is going to do the same search, for example, ask the same prompt, and they're going to get that original list with the wrong data in it.
Yep.
Because I corrected it for me, but it's not correcting it, globally. And so the challenge is how do you build in some sort of infrastructure for making global corrections so that accurately, so that you can sort of on an ongoing basis be ever correcting and fixing bad data within a platform like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that we will see the beginnings of some solutions coming up over the course of the next few years, because a lot of the LLMs are now offering various ways of doing sort of private versions of them. So I can now use the framework from OpenAI or from one of the other LLMs and feed it a different set of training data on top of the normal training data, to make sure that the kinds of questions that I'm asking, the outcomes that I'm getting, the prompts that I'm building out and generating are all used to make sort of a coherent ecosystem of information. Above and beyond that, I actually heard just today about a company that is building out some capabilities of automatically recommending which of the various LLMs should be used for which purpose. So, you know, Open AI might be good for this. Adobe's Firefly might be good for some other set of purposes, and you're starting to see public sites where people are actually sharing information. Which of these LLMs is giving me the best information for marketing purposes? Which of them is giving me the best information for being able to do research in this area? We really are right in the middle of this. So it's kind of a wild west right now, but I'm hoping and expecting that it'll settle down over the next few years.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm guessing that we'll start to see more niche LLMs as well, and develop as we go as well.
But it is true that the quality of what you get is going to continue to depend on the kind of data that you're putting in. And that a lot has been made out of prompt engineering recently. And yes, that's incredibly important. But the core underlying data needs to be of a high enough quality. Interestingly, turning this around a little bit, there are now a number of different data quality companies, ours included, that are researching how can we use those LLMs and how can we use AI more broadly itself to give us signals about data quality. And that can include things like automatically mapping data. It can also include things like monitoring different data sources. Oh, you think that this source is giving you good data, and it was up until a week ago. But something changed in the data that was coming in as of a week ago, and we're now seeing 80% of the telephone numbers coming in from that data source are meaningless or wrong. So, turn it around. Not only can we use good quality data to drive the results that we want out of LLMs, but we can use LLM and AI frameworks to monitor and examine the data that's coming in and tell us when we need to go out and fix something.
Man, that's a great point. And I look forward to when we get to that point that they can actually do this. Because, I mean, as of right now, there's nothing really cleaning up the data unless you do like what David said and you sit there and continue to tell it to clean it up, right? Yeah. So anyway,
but there are, I mean, Redpoint itself, for instance, and many other enterprise software companies offer different kinds of solutions to try to do sort of narrowly focused cleanup of the raw data. So, there's a lot of situations where human input is actually the place where the data goes wrong. So I fill out a web form and it asks for a telephone number, and maybe I don't feel like giving it my phone number. I just put in 1234567. AI can actually help us identify, that doesn't look like a proper telephone number, and that certainly doesn't match the location that Steve put in for an address. So maybe I'm going to throw that number away and not use the bad data that was there.
Yeah, such a good point. And, BDEX, one of the things that is really awesome about BDEX is we help businesses save money on their, return on ad spend just by cleaning up their data, and so to be able to have AI at your own fingertips that would actually help you do this would be extremely helpful because, of course, data is like the fuel that makes the AI engine run, right? So garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
What more
But
would you add about? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, all I was going to say was if that data is the fuel for AI, there's sort of growing recognition that that fuel has some real value, and both the consumers and the business are sort of contending over how do I measure the value of that? How do I make sure that I'm using that fuel in a way that's wise? How do I make sure that the AI models and all of the other stuff that I'm trying to do with AI is being updated on a regular basis with that prime fuel?
Mm, yeah, it's such a good point. I mean, we could talk about data quality all day. I feel like, David, we could probably do a whole episode on data quality. But since we have it as a topic on this episode, what would you say the future of data quality is?
I mean, it's going to get better. I mean, that's the bottom line. The bottom line is data quality has always been an issue, and I think that especially in marketing and advertising, data quality has been not only an issue, but it's been sort of one of those things where everybody just sort of accepted it. Okay, yeah, we know that there's bad data, but the good data is giving us a return on investment, so we're good with the bad data. It was widely accepted. I think that wide acceptance is getting less and less. People are expecting and demanding, more out of their data. They're demanding higher quality data. There are more mechanisms for improving it, for testing the quality of it. And so, we're finding, at least with our customer base, like there's definitely more of our customers that, that are more, quality, sort of driven, which is good. That's been our business for years. That data quality has been sort of a discussion and part of our business for years. And we've been pushing it for years. I've written articles about it, like telling people, stop thinking about data at scale and start thinking about data at, the quality of your data. And so we're excited as a business to see that change. And I think it will continue to evolve. And, will it ever be 100% perfect? Maybe, probably not. It's not likely, but the better it gets, the better performance, especially when you're talking about marketing, advertising, things like that, your measurable performance, better data will bring better performance. And so I think it's a good thing, and it will continue to get better. And we have more and more ways to improve it. So that's good.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's get into this third topic. So consumer hopes and fears for AI. It's been a while, I feel like, since we've talked about fear around data and AI, David, but it's always interesting to me. So Steve, could you kick us off on what do you see as some of the consumers' hopes and fears for AI?
So hopes is a great place to start. It's very easy to take a movie like Terminator or take any of another set of dystopian movies. It's very easy to put the fear out there. But if we look at what people are actually doing with AI right now, I can go out and research a new product and get a summary of 10 different reviews of a camera lens and understand what's good and bad about it. I can even go to something really simple like the Amazon site and say, what are customers saying about this particular product? And Amazon will give me a summary that's all based on AI. So the first hope that I think consumers have is that AI and LLMs and those kinds of summaries and so on are going to make my life easier for the things that I'm trying to do out in the world, like buy new stuff, plan a trip, find a new primary care physician. Lots of things that I might think of for myself as a consumer journey. They're not directly related to buying something, but AI has the promise of being able to be my co-pilot, sit there by my side and help me do a better job of figuring those things out.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the business side too, I think that there, we have so many AI tools right now for doing so many different things, whether it's building content or even, responding to comments on LinkedIn, whatever it is. As those improve, it will get really interesting to be able to sort of employ things, agents, these AI agents to basically do things for us. So that's something to look forward to. I think the hope is, and I think, what we all truly believe is that AI will just continue to make life easier for us. It'll enable us to perform tasks easier, automate tasks and do them in an efficient manner, with accuracy. And so these are all good. These are all good things that will, help improve overall business performance. And look, there's so many tools in place today that are enabling businesses to operate at a much, at a much lower cost. So that's allowing a lot more things to happen. There are new startups that, you can start a business today. And something that probably would have cost $1 million to get a business up and running, today you can probably do for a few $1,000s. And that's just shocking. It's just absolutely amazing. And that is going to enable more and more businesses, more creativity, more innovation. And so I think my sort of, when I look at what the hopes are for the future, is a lot more innovation. I think AI will help us be able to do that, because you can do a lot more at a lower cost.
Absolutely. And that shows in a lot of statistics that we've seen recently. There was a Live Person report recently that commented that 91% of businesses are positive about using AI for consumer engagement, and 96% of them believe that generative AI will enhance customer interactions. I would inject a note of caution, because in that same report, only 50% of consumers agree that generative AI will enhance customer interactions, and 68% of consumers expect the businesses, the brands that they deal with, to limit AI bias and want to see humans managing the AI interactions. So that's sort of the converse side of it. It's not that they're saying, oh, AI terrible, bad future, and so on. It's that they want to make sure that they're still talking to people and to brands and to AI in a way that is relevant to their consumer and customer journeys.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I had that exact experience actually over the last 2 weeks with Xfinity, and I was trying to get in touch with them about billing issue, and you can't get a person. Like it was so frustrating that I can only talk with their chat assistant, and their chat assistant isn't resolving the problem, and I couldn't actually get a human being to talk to. And there has to be the right balance, like the easy stuff that you can quickly respond to and get it done right. Awesome. But when, if there's a consumer there that's literally telling the AI assistant, like, this is not solving my problem, that should kick to a person. You should be able to, at that point, speak to a human being. And that didn't happen. And that was extremely frustrating. And you know, I think to your point exactly, like there needs to be that right balance.
Mm.
Absolutely. And the other side of that is that um, just as you were talking about earlier, AI doesn't always get it right. So that chatbot may not be getting it right.
Mm-hmm.
It might be doing something that's irrelevant to me as a consumer. There's also a possibility that it's just going to plain give me wrong information or the wrong answer. There was a story a couple of years ago about an AI that responded to a customer complaint where a customer had missed a flight and was talking to the AI from a phone in the airport, where the AI made a promise of getting them on the next flight and getting them a hotel overnight. And that was not actually part of what the service was willing to provide. So you get situations where the AI hallucinates an answer, and that answer may not actually be a good representation of what the business wants to provide to the customer. So that, you know, that made for a very happy consumer, but not necessarily for a very happy company at that point.
Yeah,
You got to find that balance.
exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
man. Well, have we gotten into much of the fears yet? I mean, I guess so a little bit with like the chat bot, you know, and we like, you don't want to have a
Getting
chat bot.
lost in the
Yeah, getting lost in the whole web of things.
What about Elon's his new robot? I mean, that basically looks like Terminator, right?
I mean that sort of hits one of the fears.
Right.
And if you've ever seen the movie She or otherwise or Ex Machina, um, one of our core fears, and this one's really hard to address, is that once we have so-called general AI, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. Once we have general AI, will it really have our interests at heart? Will we be able to understand it? Will we be able to communicate with it in a way where we can expect it to be truthful, responsive, respective of us? So that's sort of the big, broad Skynet fear. I actually think I, as a consumer, have much smaller, more sort of closer in fears that are more aligned with your experience with the chatbot, David, where if if I am in communication with an AI, am I going to be caught in an endless loop? Is it going to be asking me an inappropriate question? Is it going to be doing something with the information that I'm giving it that I didn't authorize it? Am I going to get the actual business outcome or business result that I'm looking for? Is that AI going to help, or is it going to get in the way?
Mm.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think about often is fraud. There's so many different types of fraud, and I think AI is making it a lot easier because you know you can automate things that you couldn't automate before to a level where you know an AI can learn so much about you at a personal level that you know it can enable a fraudster to get you know so much information that it could be really you know deceptive, and it could be very very easily you know pose as somebody or pose as a company that you do business with or whatever it is a lot easier. Like now you get all these emails and they're just trying to guess, right? They're sending everybody a fake Chase account email or something asking for you to log in with your password, and it doesn't go to the Chase account. But I don't have a Chase account, right? They just send it to everybody. But when they know you're a Chase customer and they know you're a Bank of America customer and know somebody else's whatever, like it starts to get, you know, a little more dangerous when they have a lot more information to go by and can, you know, can try to fool you easier.
Absolutely. And you and I talked a little bit earlier offline about deep fakes, the ability of an AI to create a deep fake that makes us think this really is our boss, our colleague, our
Mhm.
friend, and act in a way that's against our best interests based on the deep fake, whether that's a financial transaction or a healthcare decision or even a political decision, there are potential problems there that we have to watch out for, and we have to, as consumers, learn to educate ourselves on signs to track and things to look for to avoid those kinds of problems. And it's getting harder.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I made a deep fake of David once. It didn't turn out too well.
Yep.
But
It was
yeah,
He had a
smiling.
sweater that
I mean,
he
it was
would
like,
never wear.
it literally talked like this.
they're just not that good yet. So,
Yeah.
that's what's great about these conversations is you can't really replicate these type of conversations yet.
Mhm.
And hopefully we will never be able to do that. Hopefully it will have to be humans who are talking to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although Perplexity they've released a podcast, a daily podcast that comes out now, and it's not video, it's just audio. And it is, I mean, it's shocking how good it is. It's literally just, I think it's like 7 minutes, and it's two people. It's a guy and a girl, and they're just talking about current events, and they release it every single day. And it basically goes out and it looks at like what's gone on in current events that day. And then it, generates the podcast, and it's like, you're listening to it. You really wouldn't know that it's not actual people talking about the current events. So it's pretty impressive.
That is impressive. I would bet you anything that behind the scenes, there are people who are making sure that, we're guiding all of that to be exactly what it needs to do, or we're going to sort of build out 2 or 3 podcasts and pick the one that works the best so that we can avoid problems.
Yeah.
And what about making it unique? I wonder if they're concerned about plagiarism at all. Like if the AI just like goes and copies a New York Times article or something and reads it verbatim, wouldn't that cause an issue?
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of case law that gets decided on that over the next 10 years about what constitutes plagiarism. It's easy to say you can't use my data going in, but if you're using a whole bunch of public domain or permitted sources or things like that, and producing something like a beautiful podcast, who owns the results?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
the challenge.
Well, we've only got 8 minutes left. We better make sure we get to this last topic here, and that's tech stack. So, we've talked a lot about AI, but it doesn't have to be an AI tool per se, but we do like to know what our guests' favorite tools are in their tech stack. And we hear all sorts of things from your phone to, your Slack to anything. But I'm really curious to hear, Stephen, what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack?
Well, I've got a few that are sort of classical and mundane. I use LinkedIn to try to keep track of my colleagues, to understand what's going on in the market, and to really sort of keep in touch with the social business marketing scene. On the tech side, I'm really liking playing around with Snowflake and Snowflake Cortex. There's an awful lot of there in some of the underlying Snowflake pieces where you can use Cortex for not just the LLM kinds of tasks, but all kinds of questions that you might want to ask, visualizations, predictions and calculations, just a ton of different kinds of information. And as with so much in the AI world, it's a moving target. What you can do with it today is drastically different from what you could do with it 6 months ago. And I expect it's going to be different again 6 months from now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, we do hear Snowflake quite a bit. So, but what was the second part of it? There was Snowflake, and then you said Snowflake something else?
Snowflake has a tool called Cortex. I shouldn't say a tool. It's not really a tool. It's a whole collection of different things. So Cortex is Snowflake's AI capability. It's an LLM. It's a set of APIs that let us as a company, Redpoint, talk to the various components within Snowflake, ask questions, build out information, make predictions about customers. There's a tremendous set of things that you can do in an environment like that. That's not the only one like that that we use as a company, but it's the one that I've had the most chance to play around with and sort of see where the edges are and what's there and what's not there yet in the AI world. Of course, I've done a lot of playing with other kinds of AI capabilities as well. I've drawn pictures in DALL-E and in DaVinci and in all kinds of things. I've used Adobe Firefly to try to see what I could make it do for me in terms of content and in terms of arranging my schedule and arranging my tasks. I will tell you, I'm a little bit ADHD. So if I can come up with a real AI assistant that helps keep me on track and keep my tasks going, I will be thrilled. I haven't found one yet, though.
Yeah, that's a good idea. There are quite a few out there. Well, thank you for sharing all of those tools. And well, in closing, Stephen, would you like to tell listeners a little bit more about yourself and also how they could find you?
Sure. It's pretty easy to reach me at Redpoint. If you will find me on the Redpoint site all the time, you'll find me on LinkedIn just as Stephen Zisk, and you'll be able to reach out to me by message, by email, by phone at Redpoint. I also try to be as responsive as I can on other kinds of media and apps. And reach me by telephone. My telephone number is right out there in public. Anybody who wants to should reach out to me. The only other thing that I would add is I'm not the only person who has interesting things to think about or talk about at Redpoint. So please feel free to sort of take a look and see who Redpoint is and talk to us a little more about customer data. This customer data topic has been near and dear to my heart since long before I joined Redpoint, but I have a whole bunch of colleagues who would love to chat with people about customer data and customer experience.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, this has been great, Stephen. We really appreciate you joining us here on the show today. It's been a great chat, and I think our listeners got to hear a lot of great information. I'm going to let Jesse close it out for us.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll just go ahead and pull up a QR code right here. So folks who are watching on video can check out the QR code and scan it to go over to bdex.com. Or if you're on podcast, just go to bdex.com and click the Talk to an Expert button. So audience members, we want to invite you to get powered by BDEX. So you can build your authentic connections with your audience and actually drive that unprecedented engagement. So we've been talking a lot about AI. Imagine harnessing the power of AI to build and craft your audience that truly actually resonates with your message. So you can take your first party customer data and learn more about your customers from your customer data. And we want to help you do that and bring you closer to your marketing goals. So we're eager to guide you. Just like I said, go to the Talk to an Expert button at bdex.com and we'll be happy to help you build your quality customer data. And for those of you who are interested in the Deconstructing Data podcast and you know someone who you think would be a great fit on the show, you can send their name to us at info@bdex.com. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or other ideas about the show, please share your qualitative data with us so we can make this better for you. And thank you again so much, Stephen, for joining us. We really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. And I hope that you get a whole ton of people who are interested in this topic and look for your advice on it. That would be super.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Everyone,
Stephen.
have a great night.
We'll see.